All right, guys, sorry about that. There might be a few interruptions in this live, so forgive me if that happens. Anyway, welcome everybody. I'm going to try to make this a quick live. I better stop saying that because it ended up going in ways I never expect. So thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciate that. Real talk, thank you for the $4.99. I really appreciate it. He says, this will be epic. I hope so. Not in ways I'm not expecting. But yeah, you guys can make it epic as well. You just have to have your own questions as well because, you know, I'm very thankful to Afeez from eRides. We've all seen him. We've seen how he does his reviews. I'm very appreciative of that. So let me look at some of your comments first. So obviously you guys saw the title. It's about the KS20 and the Master. We know that the Master is basically a, how do you say it? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? I always do that, an audio check, but I didn't this time. How is the audio? 1 for good, 0 for no good. How's it going, guys? Can you hear me? All right. Good. All right. So like I was saying, we have some amazing wheels coming out. And I made a video a long time ago saying that EUCs are boring. I said that in one of my videos. And that's when I was making the U-Rail, etc., etc. I said EUCs are boring. Well, guess what? They're no longer boring. After that video, wheels have been coming. I'm not saying I'm the reason. I'm just saying it's a coincidence that after that video, wheels have just been coming off like, whoa. That's pretty intense. You know what I'm saying? Like suspension, range, modularity. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of things that's been added to these wheels. And rightfully so, because we're getting used to the boxy and the circle and, you know, just basic stuff. This is pretty exciting, whether you agree with the KS20 or not, whether you agree with their execution on it. It's just marvelous that, you know, companies can go in that direction with one wheel. Wow. So give it up to them, you know, give it up to Kingsong, give it up to Gotway. I'm not sure about, well, give it up to Inmotion too, because the V12 is a very nice thing. The V11 is a very nice thing. So give it up to these companies. They've done a fantastic job. So please prepare your questions because Afeez will hopefully be able to answer some of our gripes. Bunny Slippers, he said, I better make some coffee. No, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how long the stream's going to be. I don't know. I don't want it to be 8 hours, but it's kind of like the middle of the day toward the end of the day. And for him in London, he's 5 hours ahead. So we set it up around this time. So he has to go to sleep as well. So Afeez, if you're hearing this, don't be shy. Don't be shy to tell me, hey, I got to go. Bunny Slippers, I better take a quick power nap. Oh my gosh, I keep hitting the wrong ones. Real talk, do you think Afeez could partner with your brand so you could act as a US affiliate? That would be fantastic. The issue with me, and I'm not hiding my issues. My issues, you know, I'm never consistent. So I would like to get to that point where I'm consistent, and because I don't want to damage his brand. You know what I mean? He has a great brand. I don't want to damage it. I just get him when I can, and then when he jumps on, we're good. But absolutely, I would love at some point, yes, we'll be able to do that. But for now, it's up in the air, and I think that's a great idea. Real talk, I like Afeez's work ethic, but I can't purchase his stuff. Is that because you're in the U.S., real talk, or somewhere else that he does not service? That's possibly it, right? Possibly the reason. Don't Shoot says sweet. EUC Vibe says lightning bolts. EUC Vibe says S20 bears and pedals tilts at 25%. Wow, interesting. Well, these are good questions. These are good concerns. Long awaited stream. Appreciate that. Rob Hitch, hi all. Is this the electric scooters channel? If you consider an EUC an electric scooter, then yes. Okay, so let's see. This is a good question here. When will the S20 start be shipped? As far as I'm concerned, I looked on Ewheels. It said around May. We know that they're in lockdown right now because of COVID, so things could change, but I'm not really too sure. Rob Hitch, haven't had the chance to go through detailed specs on either wheel, but the Begode Master seems to be more tempting. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It seems like the KS20 opened up a market. Bunny Slippers, will you make Afeez dance on the S20? Oh my gosh. Hey, Afeez, you got another video. Next video, you dancing on that S20. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Afeez. I'm going to bring him on, and I'm going to prepare my questions right here, and we'll just go at it. Let me do this and do this, and I have my questions ready. I hope you guys have your questions. Afeez, I'm bringing you on.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Well, I like the last one. Would you make Afeez dance on the S20? Yeah,
I don't know where they're getting that from. Oh, I know where they got that from.
Oh, well,
video. Yes. Remember you were dancing at one of those events with the EUC where there were lots of people there. And you were dancing.
I remember. Yeah, that was in Brussels. Yeah.
I was actually very impressed. That was actually a good dance. I showed it to the lady. I'm like, oh, he's really going at it. I would never expect you to dance like that, but you.
I was happy that day. You know, I'm with like-minded people. It was a good day. Yeah.
Let me move a little. Actually, let me see if this is better. Is this better, guys, or is this better? Can you see it, Afeez? Is this better? You know what? I'm gonna do something better. Hold on for a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you some questions, but I would like to have.
You there?
Hold on for a second. It's a virtual camera. One day I'll get a real camera.
Good.
And make my life a lot easier. But for now, I'm on the cheap. Okay, so what we have here is the S20 on the right, on the left, and the Master on the right. So I'm gonna just for now have you and myself. And my first, thank you again, Mr. Afeez. Thank you very much.
Of course.
So I'm just gonna go right into it. Okay. I want you to. How long have you had the S20 now?
Oof, I think we've had the S20 for about going on 2 months now, maybe.
That's a long time. Wow.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. Going on 2 months. Not quite 2 months, but going on 2 months. Yeah, quite some time. Yeah, I think we were the first one in the UK to get it. We're the first one in the UK to get it.
Wow. So you had it for about 2 months. That means you had enough riding experience to give us, I would say, an objective point of view, or do you think your answers are going to be geared toward more of a subjective type, where it's like your emotions are involved, or do you think you're prepared to give an objective point of view? Because you are a seller. That's why I mentioned objective, subjective.
Yeah. So the thing is, before I was selling EUCs, I'm a rider, first and foremost anyway. And actually, the reason why I'm actually a distributor is because Kingsong came up with the idea. I went to their factory, and one of their account managers said, "Why don't you just sell these things? You can do a good job at it." That's how it started. That was never the intention, but my emotions is always involved with when I give my reviews is based on just what I believe. Now, the way you ride, for example, is different the way I ride. So, and it's important for people to realize that when people give their own viewpoint, is just to their riding style, is to them. So don't take everything I say as the gospel, just because I've had the S20 for quite some time. But yes, I can give you my opinion as a rider. Forget about distributor. I'm distributor second. I'm a rider first.
I like that. You should have a tagline under eRide. Correct. I'm a rider first, distributor second.
That's it. It's true.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. All right. Well, I appreciate that because that's going to come in handy. Because as you know, these things are really hard to return.
Yes.
So give us your honest opinion about the KS20. You don't have to make it long, just your honest opinion in an overall fashion.
Okay. Good all-around wheel. good all-round wheel, best suspension wheel. There are better performance wheel out there if you want performance. Initial torque is a bit of a struggle, but you get used to it if you come from a heavier wheel. If you come in from an S18, there is some adjustment to be made. Fun wheel. That's it. That's just what came to my mind. It's a fun wheel overall, but you need to put some effort into it to kind of, extract all that fun out of it. So I'm not really a big fan. I wasn't really a big fan of suspension wheel anyway, but with the S20, that suspension is just amazing. As in, once you go over a little small bumps, you might as well not have a suspension because it's quite hard initially. But to do like big jumps and kind of go downstairs and kind of explore your city and go to places where you normally don't go with your normal MSP or your suspension-less wheels, the S20 is the best wheel for that. It just wants you to have fun, but it's not. If you're looking for a performance wheel, look elsewhere. The mid-range torque is very good though. Once you get it going and you start kind of playing with it and kind of like, what I mean, when just kind of talking a little bit, is there for sure. The S20 reminds me of the 16X back in the days when it first came out. The 16X also had quite a few issues initially as well. And then slowly the firmware updates just kept rolling in and it just kept getting better and better. And the 16X is one of the best mid-range to start a wheel right now, in terms of the torque, and the way it just rides. So I think the S20 will go through a few changes before it becomes what it could be. Yeah, but it's a fun wheel, but it's not the best performance wheel if you want a performance wheel. I think it's true.
I like how you said if you wanted performance, you would have to look somewhere else. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, so let me just define what I mean by performance, because that could mean something totally different to somebody else. Performance wheel for me is having torque, having the balance. It needs to be balanced. It needs to talk to you. When you're on the wheel and you don't think about the dynamics of the wheel, that's when you won with the wheel. I'm talking about the MSPs of this world. I'm talking about even back in the days when I'm talking about the Nikola, Nikola of this world, the way they just kind of fit with you, right? You don't have to think about it. It's just there. You lean, bang, it goes. You brake, bang, it breaks. That is what I mean by performance. It's not just straight line speed, not just lean and go. Anybody can lean hard and go 50 miles an hour until they cut off. Yeah. So that's what I mean by performance.
So off to detour for a second, do you feel the performance aspect of EUCs in terms of just being able to lean in and go, stop and go, and especially with those races, like for example, in the Apple Speedway and some places in London, in corners, it's very important, like in traffic, it's very important. Yeah. Do you think like this initial burst of acceleration in terms of performance is unique, if you would say, to Gotway and now Sherman, which a lot of these companies actually came from Gotway? So would you say that's like a unique thing to Gotway? Because I've never heard of a Gotway lacking torque from the beginning, being a performance.
No, so I think it's becoming less unique to Gotway, but Gotway still has that edge. Now, I'm not a Gotway fan by any means. If a wheel is great, it's great. But I find that if I am going to pick up a wheel and say, okay, I'm going to go to the city right now and I'm going to be riding with traffic, and I need that immediate feedback. I need that torque immediately when I need to get out the way, or brake when there's someone about to go in front of me, a wheel that I can trust, then I'm probably going to pick up one of my Gotway wheels. It's just natural. Yeah. Hold on 1 minute. Let me just plug.
Sure.
1 minute. Yeah.
So, Yusufukan Aktas. That's a very good question.
Good. I'm back. Yeah.
So this person asked a question. Wrong Way was saying that the Sherman has the same torque as the S20. Is that true?
When we say torque, where is it? Initial acceleration, or are we talking about mid-range? Because people need, yeah. So I've not seen that, but I'll probably ask Adam when I chat to him later or sometime, drop him a message.
But
But
you've ridden the Sherman.
I've ridden the Sherman. I find the Sherman that the initial go of the Sherman, you need to be careful, right? Or else you might actually just fall over or something. The S20 mid torque is powerful. You know what I mean? It's better than the Sherman mid torque. But to get going, maybe for the first 0 to about 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, surprisingly, the Sherman is not lacking compared to the S20. But going forward after that, the S20 will catch up. And the good thing about the S20 as well is that because it's got that suspension as well, going over bumps, it's just amazing. You can go take some bumps and you don't need to kind of slow down. Whereas with the Sherman, you have to kind of slow down. Oh, there's a bump coming, or I don't want to crack my rims or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's not easy to compare those two wheels because they're kind of two different things. You know what I mean?
Different,
they're quite different.
Can you clarify what you mean when you say the initial torque is not so great?
I mean, for the S20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always said this. I mean, from the first moment, I feel it's kind of improved a little bit over time and the firmware updates I've been rolling in. It's just that when I first got the S20, I would lean into it and it just wouldn't be that peppy initially. But then once you get over 10 miles, 12 miles an hour, and then it comes alive and it's like, whoa, okay. There it is. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe it can't be just the weight because 35 kg is similar to the Sherman as well. Yeah, it must be the firmware, because that is a very powerful motor. It's not a joke. That motor is well built as well. I mean, if you've seen the motor itself, the rim is very well, reinforced rims. It must be the firmware. It must be coming from the firmware. And that's why I said that maybe sometime in the future, this wheel will be unleashed, but I think they're still kind of fine-tuning it as time goes by. Yeah.
Do you remember what riding mode you were in when you experienced the lack of torque?
I tried everything. I wouldn't say lack of torque. I just think it's just the torque wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I was expecting a little bit more. Now, obviously, you're bigger than me, right? So if you lean into it, you might get a bit more acceleration out of it. If you proper Superman lean into it, you might get a bit quicker. But just on my, how I compare it to my other wheels, I felt like I had to kind of lean a little bit hard into it. But in terms of, I think I was in the medium type of mode. There's two. Kingsong has got 3 different modes. I think there's a beginner mode or something. There's a medium mode. There's an expert mode. I moved it to the medium mode. And the reason why I did that was because on my Gotway wheels, and even on the veteran wheels as well, I prefer medium to soft mode, right? Because I can lean. I can get that that soft pedal that allows me to just kind of lean out of it. So I moved it to the middle mode, whatever that is. It's not expert mode; it's the one below that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's independent of any of those modes. It's just, you seem like it's a firmware thing.
Yeah. I hope so, though. I really hope so, because it would be a shame, because once you get that wheel moving, it's got power, but it's just that initial grunt off the line. It's like, come on, let's go. Come on, you can do it. And it's just like, yeah, all right. I'll take my time. And then once it gets going, then yeah, of course the power is there.
Okay. Do you feel it's a complete wheel, or is it in many ways still has some type of prototype qualities to it? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. In terms of the hardware, I'll answer that question in 2 parts. Hardware wise, I think is good looking wheel. I think they've done a good job in terms of look and feel. In terms of the software part of it, the firmware part, it's nearly there. It's nearly there. I wouldn't say, and a good thing with Kingsong is they've actually said, listen, you know, they're still pushing out updates, so which means even they know that there's still a lot to extract out of it. This question kind of reminds me of, so before I came online right now, I was watching the Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm not sure if you guys in America watch F1 racing, and normally when they go into a new season, they're still fine-tuning the cars. You don't really get the best part of or the performance out of F1 cars until about after 5 races or so, once the engineer gets you know, used to the mechanics of it. And I feel it's kind of the same thing with the S20. I feel that there is still a little bit more to extract from it. And because it's firmware and it's not hardware related, it's something that you know, if you buy the wheel, you'll probably get that benefit going forward anyway, because you'll keep on pushing out firmware updates. So yeah, in terms of the firmware and the software part, I think they're still working on it, and they'll make it better. I hope so.
Yusuf Khan at Actas says, I believe low end torque because he was doing a hill climb test and both wheels performed the same. I think he's referring to the Sherman and the KS20. I don't know why they want to compare the two, but
they're two different wheels. Like I'll tell you something. Like so, I've got this is not to do with the S20, right? But this is to do with the Hero, the Begode Hero. And so initially, when I got the two Heroes in, the torque and the speed, I didn't like the Hero. And then our engineer Kevin said, "Listen, why don't you put some Michelins on there? I think the reason why I don't like it is because you like more maneuverability. You like that initial, responsiveness." So we changed it, and the Hero just transformed. Right, I could play with it. I got more confidence with it. But the Hero, I'm hoping the S20 is going to be the same thing as well. So we're planning to change the tire on our S20 in a few weeks' time. And hopefully that will, make the ride feel of the S20 be similar. Hopefully we can get the same transformation that we had from the Hero. The same thing with the S20.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you haven't changed the tire of the S20 yet to test and see if that made a huge difference with the initial torque. Is it because it's difficult to change the tire?
One, that was the issue. So we had an issue where we're trying to change. Actually, no, we had an issue with the motor where it was clicking inside, but that was just with our own particular motor, just our sample. So we tried to get to the motor and then we realized that we couldn't because we kept blunting out the screws. So we told Kingsong that, listen, you need to change this for everybody, right? Or else you're going to have a lot of maintenance issues. We'll need to service this thing. But the reason why we've not changed the tire is because we kept doing demo days around the UK. So we've been to Liverpool, we've been to Newcastle, and it's just best practice that people try out the wheel the way it will arrive from the manufacturer before we start changing the tires, because they wouldn't get the proper feedback the way they would get their wheel. So we had a lot of customers across the UK, and they just want to test what they've bought from us. We've got customers in London, but majority of our customers in the UK is obviously not going to be in London. There's other parts of London. Not going to be in London. There's other parts in the UK, other cities in the UK as well. So that's the reason why we've not changed our tire. Once we've done our entire tour of the UK, then I can be confident enough to then play around with the tire. And I know it's just for me to ride around. Right now, it's not really my wheel. It's the customer's wheel.
So Don't Shoot asks, what range are we talking about when on the S20? You've had it for 2 months now. What kind of range you feel you're able to get?
The way I ride, you get about 40, 45.
And how do you ride?
I ride not as hard as you, but quite close. I like acceleration and I like braking hard.
Is this mostly on flat surfaces, mostly?
Mostly on flat surfaces, but also there's some bumps as well, some slight, hills, but not crazy. It's not like in San Francisco or something, not like that. But yeah, my type of riding is 0 to 35 or 0 to 40 miles an hour, and I stay there. I don't like going over 40 miles an hour. You can't go over 40 miles an hour where I ride anyway, because there's traffic around the place. So you can't be bumming around 50 miles an hour. And there's turns and corners, but it's hard acceleration. So you probably get about 40, 45 miles. If you're lucky, get 50.
Do you remember the temperature?
It's been getting a bit warmer now, but I'll probably say on average about 12 degrees. Centigrade.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let me see if I can find another question here. So this is not a question, but UC Vibe says, I couldn't keep up with the S20 on demo day because I was on the Sherman, and all the bumps and potholes, I had to slow down for a while. The S20 was able to zoom by, and I was surprised by that. Makes sense. Makes a huge difference having suspension.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that the best, maybe after the Master does come out, eventually we get the Master, because there's a massive COVID issue in China now. Nobody can get that wheel out, right? But right now, the Hero Speed, that wheel is ridiculously good. I'm not only am I keeping up with Sherman's, but because I've got a suspension, I can maintain the high speed. I'm talking about 42, 44 miles an hour constantly. So I can just kind of skip over the bumps, right? Whereas the Shermans have to slow down. And yeah, so I'm actually waiting for the Shermans to keep up with me on the Hero Speed. So yeah, EUC Vibe is right. Yeah. Suspension makes a lot of difference.
Wow.
Yeah. That wheel is good.
But that's typical of Galway to have two versions.
And that is why I think, I don't know, that's why I think the Master is going to be really good, only because it's based on a C38 motor for now. Knowing Galway, they'll probably come out with a speed version. I think the speed version is not really needed right now, to be fair, because of the speed that the C38 134 volt can achieve. Now, the C38 with 134 volt will give you the speed that you need, so 55 miles an hour, which I think is plenty enough. And then you also have the torque as well, the C38 motor, and acceleration. So that is why I think a lot of people are waiting for the Master, especially when you couple it with a monocell high discharge battery as well. I think that's a 42 amp discharge or something. So you can lean as hard as you want on that wheel, and it would just be like, give me some more. Is that, is that all you got? But it is that I'm expecting to be that good. But for the time being, the Hero Speed does the job well. Yeah.
So Real Talk asks, as an EUC insider, is there any way to brief us on the mind state of Begode, Kingsong, and Inmotion? For example, performance, range, or safety being the priority of each or secondary?
Maybe.
Do you see the question?
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, only comment on Begode right now is because they are the last company that we spoke to personally about safety. And that's the reason why, not just us, other distributors as well. And you've got Archie as well. So if I just like to shout out to Archie, he's also been pushing them to put in some safety features.
You mean Panda?
Yeah, Panda, yes. I speak to the owner of Galway. Well, not me. My wife does in Chinese, but he also understands some English, Mr. Lin. But in terms of safety wise, for the Master, we had a meeting with the owner of Galway, and we made it very clear. This was after Sean, Sean, the YouTuber in New York, came out with a video, and he said something along the lines. I was watching. I was actually on holiday, and I was watching the YouTube, and he said, "Oh yeah, me and Afeez tried to, tell Galway to change some stuff, but they're still holding up. However, Ewheels are now have their own batteries," and I'm thinking to myself, that is a shame on the manufacturer that a distributor has to take money out of his own pocket, so just because you are not listening to him. So we got on the call. we actually had 2 long phone calls and said, listen, you need to, this Master is just going to be dead, another dead wheel, before it even arrives. If I were you, go out there and look for Light Tech and collaborate with Light Tech. Even if it's just assembling your batteries for you, just do that. That will give people that confidence to trust you again. So in terms of safety, the only company that we have spoken to in regards to safety is Begode. And I think that's probably one of the catalysts of them bringing out those options for batteries.
Okay.
Yeah. Kingsong, I think for Kingsong, it's just feedback based on, maintainability of the S20, the screws and some other things that our engineer has learned and has fed that back to them. And they've been quite responsive, to be fair. Inmotion, because of the V12 cutoffs that's been happening, I remember sending a couple of strongly worded chat to my account manager and say, listen, that test that you're telling us to do with all that pick up and do all that stuff, first of all, that is invalid because maybe some wheels don't even have an issue, but because you're doing that, you probably just stressed out the MOSFET anyway. And that doesn't tell you anything because it just means that you might just be delaying the inevitable. So if I were you, just so that you can save your brand, just replace every bloody main board and and they've also done that as well. So they are listening, but I hope, I feel like there's a race going on. This is just me. Again, as I said before the show, I'm not speaking as oh, that's Kevin. I'll call him back later. Yeah, I think
if he wants to be on, he can be on too. But go on.
I think he wants to return the S20 to me tonight. Hold on, let me say.
Good.
Yeah, I will call you later on a live stream. Sorry about this, everybody. UStride.
No, that's fine. That's EUC upgrades, man.
I know, it's like 8 o'clock and we're still working, eh? Yeah. So what was I saying? Inmotion, right? Yeah, I feel like there is this race between all of the manufacturers. Before, we used to have 1 or 2 wheels come out every year, right? And they will just keep it to 1 or 2 wheels, or sometimes 1 wheel every 2 years. But you know that when that wheel comes out, they spend time testing it. It's gone through a lot of iteration. But there is this increased amount of releases that's been coming out. Begode obviously being one of them. Kingsong, trying to make sure that the S20 is out there as well. Inmotion, V12, high torque, high speed, V13. It's like, okay, can you guys just relax for a minute? Because these are 1-wheel devices, right? You cannot be making mistakes with these wheels. Any failure, and people are just going to hurt themselves. So my message, and if anybody from, is watching this from any of the distributors, just don't rush. I think releasing out these wheels and trying to beat the competition by always pushing out, look at the latest wheels coming out so you can stop the other team from selling and taking the attention away from them to your product. It's not doing anybody any good. Yeah, that's just my little rant, really.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Real Talk asks, what was Kingsong's objective with bumping up their voltage? Because it doesn't seem to make any difference. A lot of people are saying 100-volt MSX feels a lot better than that wheel.
I think it does make a lot of difference if you compare it to the S18. So every company has their pros and cons, right? Kingsong, I like the product. It works within the parameters that I've set for it, right? They're not trying to push the boundaries. I think 126 volt for Kingsong could be, again, I'm just talking, I'm not trying to bring anybody down, right? Kingsong quality is really great, right? But 126 volts is probably equivalent to 100 volt Gotway, because Gotway are purely performance, so they know how to tune their wheels for proper performance. Is a right comfort, right? So 126 volt for them is equivalent to maybe 100 volt of Begode. So there is, for them, a bump in performance.
Okay, I get it. Okay, yes. And I said that in one of my videos too. I felt it made a lot of sense if we just compared it to Kingsong, to other Kingsong wheels. And if you try to leap over into that other sphere where performance is, known like Begode or Sherman, and you try to compare it with those, then you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But if you just focus on, what not Inmotion, but what Kingsong has done over the years, then it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've done a good job in terms of the performance compared to the S18 for the S20.
Oh, speaking of the S18, since I wasn't going to ask you this now, but I'll ask you now. Sensei Vegan in my last live mentioned he feels Kingsong should have taken a different approach by giving us an upgraded version of the S18 rather than just a completely different wheel, which is the KS20. What do you think about that?
Well, my engineer Kevin actually built a S18 upgrade, which is he's got a 2,200 watt-hour S18. That's what I was expecting as well. And his wheel actually accelerates the S20 off the line because it's got a lot more juice. Obviously, the S20 will catch up and then just kill it right afterwards. But yeah, so I know how an upgraded S18 feels like, and it's really nice.
That makes sense though, because more battery, more power, right?
Yeah, but because the S18 has the firmware to kind of limit the speed, so Kevin will accelerate all the way to 31 whatever miles an hour, and he can't go any further because he gets a little bit. But the power is there because the juice is there, right? To feed that motor. That motor is not as hungry as the S20 motor that we have right now. What will be interesting is, and I've just been thinking about this, if the S20 has a monocell battery pack in it with all that juice, obviously it's 2,000. I'm not sure what the configuration is going to be. It's probably going to be a little bit less because if you add monocell, I think it kind of decreases the watt hour a little bit compared to the LG. But that will be interesting to give that motor all the juice it can take, because that S20 motor is not a joke. It's a proper motor.
Yeah, it's 3,300 watts, and you're right. It looks really well built.
Oh, it's a nice motor.
So do you feel like it's another case then where with the S18 you had a great motor, not a significant battery, so you really didn't get what you could potentially get out of such a crazy motor, and then you have the same issue being kind of transferred to the KS20, whereas the KS20 has this amazing motor, but the 2220 watt-hour battery doesn't seem to do it.
All evidence seems to point to that. But there are other factors as well that maybe we don't see. I just want to make that clear. There might be design constraints. There might be battery supply constraints as well that we don't know. Because all these manufacturers get their products as well from other manufacturers, and then they put everything together, right? So I'm sure if they had access to more batteries to put into the S20, I'm sure they would. Maybe there's a S20 Plus coming out in a year or two. You never know. Maybe that's why they've limited the firmware so that it doesn't, the wheel is not as accelerative off the line as possible. Maybe there is a constraint in the main board of the S20 that means that if it accelerates a bit too hard, it might blow some things up. There is so many things that we have to consider. That I'm sure the engineers want to build a kick-ass wheel, but there's some other things that we have to think as well. But
so just to veer off a little bit here, the Master, I believe, has 24 MOSFETs. The S20 has 12, and the S18 had 12. So, and someone mentioned that they use very small, cheap MOSFETs. Do you think that that plus firmware could be an issue, could be the reason? Because Andre Oliveira is saying, I think it was getting more speed and maintaining the KS safety at the same time. So do you think they compromised a little bit?
It could, again, there could be. I'm not sure if they knowingly compromised, because I've met the Begode engineers, right? And those guys are just geeks. They just literally live for building performance wheels. And they've been doing this for years. But they're not very good with building good product that feels nice and fits into 90% of the EUC community. And that is why companies like Inmotion sell a lot of wheels, even though they don't make the fastest wheels, right? But I don't think they knowingly compromise it. I think this is their product, and they will learn from it, and they will iterate, and they will evolve over the coming years. The S20 is not going to be the last wheel that they're going to release. There'll be another wheel. Just like the way there was like Kingsong 14D at one time. The 14D was like, whoa, look at this! I can go 18 miles an hour, and now it's evolved over time. It's just the capability of the team right now. So yeah.
Omnidel says, are they going with the quality kickstand in the first batch? EcoDrift received their demo S20 with a broken kickstand from the box.
Our kickstand has been okay. I think one of our customers mentioned that it would be great if the kickstand had like some sort of springy thing to it, because when it was going downstairs, the kickstand just kept falling over because of the vibration. So maybe the kickstand could be a bit more, harder, or maybe stay in place, something mechanical to make it stay in place. But our batch has been okay in terms of kickstand wise. Once it goes up, it more or less stays up, unless you kind of go down really aggressively on staircases.
But to answer the question, was there going to be upgraded version of the kickstand?
No, okay. Not that I know. I mean, not that I know of. We've not been told that.
Okay, but the front bumper for sure.
Oh yeah, the front bumper for sure. For sure, that needs to be reinforced, because that's just like cracking off like crackers biscuits. So easy.
Are there any features being offered by the Begode Master that have not been shared yet? That's real talk.
Bloody hell! Listen, I think the Begode team have done all the marketing themselves. They keep writing all the time. So, I think they've shared everything that could be shared with that wheel, and rightly so. The good thing about Begode is they like to keep things as simple as possible, right? So I don't think there's any more. They're not known for putting hidden features here and there. They just want to create a fast wheel that just works, and I think that's what they should just concentrate on right now. So nothing.
So thanks, Real Talk. That question just came in my mind before I move on to the next question. What is the mindset with companies moving away from accessories such as USB, speakers, LED lights over the wheels?
Oh, sorry, I think you cut off there. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so what is the mindset behind these companies moving away from very important accessories like USB, speakers, LED lights, etc.?
I don't know. I guess it's just more things to break. I don't know. I mean, there's just more entry for failure, I guess. What are coming into the speakers? What are coming into the USB port? But I would like a USB port. I just like that. I like the fact that my phone is running now. I just want to plug it in. I think speakers. Some people like speakers and they like that for safety feature. But not everybody wants to hear your music, right? If True. You want to. If you want to play music out loud, get proper JBL speakers or something, or a USB or Bluetooth speaker, and then put it on your back and then ride around with it. But I guess the reason why they're moving away from it is because they're getting serious. These are now proper vehicles, right? I think people see those LED lights and they think about electric unicycles as a gimmick. It was cool back in the days with the Begode or Gotway Tesla, right? I love that wheel, by the way, with the lights and one with the nickel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it's just one for simplicity, and two because it's now a proper machine and people will take it seriously without LED.
Okay, so here comes a serious question on my part. I hope you're prepared for that one. But Okay, so the KS20's battery model is the LG50LT 21700 cells, right? Compare that with the Begode Master. I'm gonna go with the highest one that they have in terms of like performance, which is the Litec Molicel P42A. It's low range, but it has a higher speed and obviously a higher price. So the Molicel P42A cells are regarded as the most performance, the best performing cells, offering higher discharge, battery sag. It's the thing of the past. They said, this is what they said, battery sag is a thing of the past. The trade-off here is much higher discharge at a higher price and lower battery capacity. So do you see any major potential differences in terms of both range and performance when you compare the Kingsong and that Molicel from, I'm not sure where it's from, but
Litec.
Litec.
I think it's Litec assembled by Litec. Okay, so
yeah, because the note here is the Litec Molicel. I believe it has a continuous discharge rate of 40 amps. That's I looked it up and I found it on a spec sheet. It was like 40 amps.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the KS20 discharge is at, but the KS20 ends up being like, I don't know, 200 watt hours less than the Master, pretty much the same weight, less suspension, more performance. Do you see any major difference here, like in terms of just the two, focusing on the two batteries?
Okay, so in terms of the batteries, there is an assumption that the Molicel 2000 watt hour. Can you hear me? Hello? You back? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, I can. So I think there is an assumption, because you're looking at just pure numbers, that 2,400 watt hour for, I don't know, an LG or a Samsung, and 2,000 2,000 watt hour, sorry, 2,400 for the Samsung LG is more than a 2,000 watt hour for the Litec Molicel. That is, I believe that's an assumption. I've heard and I've read, and it's yet to be proven by myself until I've written it, but all evidence points to the fact that the Molicel battery will still have similar range to the 2,400 Samsung or LG battery. So again, don't just look at the numbers of 2,400 and think, that means it's more range than the Molicel. I believe the Molicel batteries will have similar range. It might not be exactly the same, but it's not far off from the 2,400 watt hour. So that's for the battery. What else? Did you say suspension or something?
No, just in terms of the discharge rate.
Yeah. So in terms of discharge rate of the S20, I don't know, but I know obviously it's not going to match the Master's P42A Molicel for sure. And I think you might be surprised that the range might also be similar as well, even though the Molicel has 2,000 watt hour. That's just what I'm reading. So
you don't think the range is going to make much of a difference?
I don't think so. I think if it's not going to be that massive of a difference, Molicel 2,000 watt hour to the Samsung or LG 2004 or 2,200 of the S20. No, I think the Molicel batteries, from what I'm reading, also have some pretty good range, even though the watt hour is lower.
So these are pretty much very similar. Maybe with like the Kingsong focusing more on jumps and the Master focusing more on performance. Neither one of them focuses on range.
No, I think the reason why is probably because of the construction of the wheels. Yeah, I think it's probably just because of the construction of the wheels, because once you start putting suspension, you're taking up spaces, right, for where the batteries are supposed to go into. And I think suspension wheels are great for city riding. I think you wouldn't need that much unless you want to, I don't know, ride in California or some back streets and some nice scenic route and you want to go for hours. then that is when you're going to really need the range. But I think if you can get 40, 50 miles out of those wheels, I think for most people, 40, 50 miles is good enough to say
Yeah,
yes.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and
I agree.
yeah, I think it's good enough. Yeah.
So is it true that Inmotion is following the trend with high torque and high speed?
Well, yes, there is a high torque V12, which apparently they claim can climb a 45-degree incline. I've ridden the V12 high speed, and I wouldn't say that in majority of circumstances for the majority of the ridership that is lacking torque. But I would rather have the high speed that has enough torque, but I have the 42, 43 miles an hour, not because I need that top speed, but because I need that buffer so that I know that even if I'm traveling at 38 miles an hour, I have to go 5 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour before the tilt back kicks in. So, yeah, there is high torque, high speed for V12, but yeah, I don't know why high torque is needed for majority of people.
So Yusuf Khan Akhtar says, Ginger on Wheels said that his RS has the molly cell batteries and it's impossible to cut out on that wheel. And he's a heavy guy. So maybe that's why. I mean, that wheel seems to dish out a lot of current. So cutting out might not really be an issue there.
Yeah, especially when you have a torque motor as well. That means you can out accelerate almost any wheel, especially on the Master. That's going to have the molly cell battery option. Yeah.
Do you know if the S20? So David Campbell says, "What's up, UStride and Afeez? You know if the S20 will come with spring option, and will you be stocking them? Because I'm 65 kilo."
Okay, so so the S20 will only come with the option that it comes with, and we have asked them this, and they've just said this is the option that's going to come up with. You can change your own spring yourself if you want to. And will we be stocking them if there is enough demand for it? I will speak to the team here, and we will stock an option that people want. As long as there is enough demand for it, of course we'll stock it. But for now, I don't know. The S20 suspension is good. It's good. It's low maintenance as well. You don't need to put any air inside it. It's not like the S20. So it's not like the S18. Sorry, it's not like the S18 where you need to put air inside it and put it. All that is very tedious. This is very low maintenance. So I'm not sure majority of people will want a spring option. But
so I'm not sure what it's called, but I think it's the sliders on the side for the shock. Wrong Way was doing a disassembly, a teardown, and he found that it was poorly built. I don't know if you saw that video.
Not yet. I'll check it out.
Yeah, so apparently there's a track that it goes through, and they use rubber to pretty much allow it to go in and up and down within that metal track.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Kevin showed me that as well. I knew it was also morning. Yeah, I think Kevin took a picture of it and sent it to Kingsong. But I mean, it works. Once you're riding it, it works. But yes, those are some of the things that you expect to be changed and modified as the wheel is being produced over time. And I mean, don't forget the S18 that I originally got from Kingsong back in the days, right? Had like some changes already made to it. I'm looking at the S18 that we're getting in stock right now compared to my very first S18, and you can already see some improvements already been made. I think because we're so used to, like, I'm talking about all performance crew now. It's like we're so used to moaning to Begode that which we want to show the whole world. This is not right. I think it's probably a bit different now. Even Begode are also listening to. But Kingsong are not stubborn enough to say, I'm not going to change something. So I think what they would probably appreciate is when we find something, we pass it on to them, and then they will make changes. And things like the rubber, or what, I'm sure like they'll probably make a change to that in later batches or something.
Andrea Oliveira says, what are the upgrades confirmed on the batch 1 of the S20? If you can remember on the top of your head. Number 1 is the bumper, right? Bumper is one of them.
Yeah. The one that I care about the most is the fact that we can service the S20 and that the screws are all proper, proper screws. I tried, by the way, to convince them to change the tire, because that tire on the S20, bloody hell, mate, that tire is hard to use. Like, you go on a straight line, is great. You try to turn, it's like nothing, bang. It's like because of that edge, and they said that it's a bit too late. And it's not that they don't want to change it, but because factories are now closed down, so they cannot get these tires. And this is why I want to say that sometimes we just we go on a bit of a rant, and I also do that as well. Like, why couldn't they do this? But then when you speak to them, okay, now I get it. It's not that you don't want to do it. It's because there's some.
So what's the reason? What's the reason? It's because of the factories?
Yeah, they don't. The factories are closed down to be able to get the different tires. So for now, they're going to go with that, and then they will look at the option later on in the future. But what we are doing at eRides is we're getting some tires in. So I want to get in some Michelins, right? I want to get in some other, maybe even the Kenda tires for some of our customers. And if they want to change it, that's fine. Select the option in checkout, and we will change it for you. It will take an additional few days for it to get a wheel.
Awesome.
At least,
So you'll do it for them. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we give them the option. They can buy it at checkout. Just get it done.
So EUC Vibes, and I'm sure someone else mentioned this, but I saw it from EUC Vibes regarding the battery sag on the Master. He said, EUC Vibe mentioned the Master sags from 100% to 75% under load. I can't confirm the load, but all wheels, in my understanding, sag under significant load and tends to recoup once you let off the acceleration. Do you have anything to say about that? And have you encountered anything similar on the S20?
So I think I know the video that's been referred to. There's one video, I'm just guessing here. There's a video of them kind of showing up how fast and they were accelerating. We're not sure what battery option is in that particular wheel. If it was the monocell, I'm sure probably not sag as much. But have I experienced that on the S20? I do know that there was a time when I was trying to kind of, I do this kind of torque thing where I slow down, I just kind of hit it hard and see, how much it actually dips. The S20 will kind of dip a little bit and then kind of recover. But in terms of looking at the battery sag on my app, whatever, I don't do that. I'm kind of old school that way. I just set up the wheel one time. I know, maybe because I ride Begode wheels. I set it up one time and that's it. I just ride. But be careful with the S20 in the sense that you can, if you accelerate hard, not accelerate, but if you kind of torque it, stop and just kind of, torque it hard, it will dip a little bit, but then it will recover. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is concerning. I would like to experience that just to see just to bring some understanding. Because that does sound, it reminds me of my high-speed MSP in soft mode when I'm trying to gun it. Because in soft mode, on my high-speed MSP, because it's not a torque, when you gun it in soft mode, this thing, you almost feel your heart jumping out of your chest because you feel like you're going down, but you're not. And then it recoups itself once you lean back.
Yeah. But the thing about the S20 is that once it gets going, as I said, over 20 miles an hour, man, this thing just goes. There was a video that Sean, in New York, did a YouTube. I think it was comparing the Sherman against the S20. And once you get the S20 going, like it's powerful, but just that initial thing, you just kind of hit it hard. You feel it kind of dip a little bit and then it recovers. Yeah.
Adam asks, hey guys, I know it's been asked probably, but could the S20 be a first wheel? He's 90 kilograms. Now the question, he said could, not is it, but could it?
Could it? Okay. I've seen people buy Shermans from us at E-Rides, and that was the first wheel. It depends on how much dedication you want to put into it. Will I recommend it as the first wheel? No, I will not recommend it as the first wheel. There are other better first. Even the S18 is a better first wheel than the S20. It's just, it's heavy. It's a bit tall. The center of gravity is a bit high as well. So if you don't know what you're doing, it can catch you off guard. All right. So it's a good looking wheel. So I think it will probably sell, and there'll be a lot of good marketing that will go around, and people will see them. Oh, I want that sexy, see thing. It could be, but it shouldn't be. That's what I'll say. For you.
I try to tell people, sure, buy it, park it, and get a first timer wheel.
Exactly. And then go back to that once you know what you're doing.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question about comfort. How is the seat actually? I mean, seating is important for acceleration, maneuverability, and especially braking. With that in mind, how does the seating compare to wheels like the Hero, the MSP, the Monster, etc.? Because these are wheels we've pretty much gotten really accustomed to, where seating is concerned. So, what do you think that's something they probably could improve on?
Let's see. So, see this here? This is my S20 seat. This is how much I think of the S20 seat. It's sitting on here. And the S20 is in a workshop. Being written by Kevin. No, you cannot compare the S20 seated with a Monster. No, come on. Maybe the Begode wheels, because they're quite low, but in terms of the comfort of the S20 seat, it's nice to have. It's good to know you can sit down because it's got a suspension, right? And it's okay, but I'm not going to be comparing it even to the Abrams, for example. The Abrams is a great seated riding wheel. Monster Pro, awesome riding wheel. Some seated riding wheel rather. But no, yeah, this is what I think about the.
So the issue I'm seeing with this wheel, and only because people have mentioned it, is there's not a lot of support. So if you look at the MSX, if we just go back to the MSX or the MSP, you'll see that from the beginning to the end of the seat, there is support from the frame of the wheel.
It's long enough.
You can sit anywhere at the front or the back, and it's pretty solid. Whereas this one, it seems to have a little gap with no support. So,
right at tilt and over here. Right there. Yeah. Again, it's down to the design, right? So do we design an awesome looking wheel that will grab people's attention and we'll go mass market with it? Or do we design a wheel that, you can sit down properly and the design fits people's usability purpose, but it wouldn't look that awesome. I think if you are a new person coming into this EUC game or this EUC industry, you see the S20 like, whoa, what is that? And I think that's what they're going for. But
I mean, in terms of practicality, where braking is, because that's the most important thing. If you're sitting and you have to brake, that's not a seat to do it on, right?
No, I wouldn't do it on that. No, absolutely. I think, can you do it? Yes, you can do it. Absolutely. Again, I want to say that this is just my opinion, and it's just my unbiased opinion. I think there are better seated riding wheel out there. Just like the way the S20 is the best suspension wheel at the moment, is good at its own thing, but not for seated riding for long distance. No.
Will M says current is limited in firmware, so I'm not sure 42 amps will be a big performance jump. Do you think that? I mean,
oh, how does he know that? I don't know. So does that mean that even if you have a battery that can give you that amount of amps, does that mean that it's just useless because the firmware would just be like, oh, sorry, mate.
I feel like, honestly, I feel that's what's happening to Kingsong. I don't think that the wheel is not capable of going hard in the beginning. I think it's some type of firmware. And this is not from my mind. This is just from other people mentioning that
Me too.
Safety and whatever.
Yeah. You know what though? Again, sorry, I don't want to bounce around the place here, but there's another option that is supposed to be like I think the S20 is supposed to be a anti-cutoff wheel.
Okay, keep talking. Okay, I'm gonna grab my little.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be an anti-cutoff wheel, and I believe, again, this is just pure speculation. They won't tell me anything because why should they? I believe that the wheel is definitely capable of a lot more if the wheel was unleashed in its full potential. But because they want to implement this anti-cutoff feature, they need to leave enough headroom in terms of performance-wise, so that even if you lean hard, the wheel has enough power to kind of tilt you back and stop you from ever cutting off. How this works, I don't know, but I do understand that this feature will slowly be rolled out to the S20 quite soon. And this is a very, very important feature. And I think because Kingsong are going for, they want to be the safety king in the EUC industry, being able to claim that our wheel is anti-cutoff is great. But to do that, you need to have that large headroom, right, of buffer and performance. So can this wheel, do 55 miles an hour? I'm sure it can. 50 miles an hour? I'm sure it can. But you need that massive headroom so that you can stop yourself from cutting off once this feature comes in. I don't know when it's going to come in, but I think once this feature rolls out, the S20 will become even more appealing to a lot of people, especially for beginners that are scared of cutoffs at high speeds. Cutoff at high speed. So cutoff can be self-inducing if you go over the limit, not technical cutoff.
So I kind of missed what you said. You said that the KS20 is promoted as an anti-cutoff wheel.
So my understanding completed yet, but I believe the Kingsong may have a feature that prevents the wheel from cutting off at high speed. So once it gets to a particular speed, no matter how much you lean into it, it just wouldn't go past that anymore. And doesn't matter how heavy you are, but to be able to do that, it needs to have that bit of power buffer, right? So that it can cope with whatever power you put on it, and it just wouldn't cut off at high speed. So is the S20 capable of a lot more than we're seeing now in terms of performance-wise, as in 43 miles an hour? I believe so. But I think they're holding it back a bit, maybe because of this anti-cutoff feature that needs to have enough buffer to stop you or tilt you back so you don't cut off.
So what do you think this buffer is? Is it current or is it like firmware? It has to be current, right?
I don't know. I'll just be speculating. I don't know. I think right now it could just be the firmware, something that they put into the firmware. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to speculate.
Yusufakan says KS20 has the LG50 LT cells, which are 10 amps. So do you think that's definitely,
Is that good enough?
Well, is it a reason why they would say this is an anti-cutoff wheel?
Yeah. So the anti-cutoff, I read it in some of the specification when it was first released, that this feature, so I don't know what the correlation is with the type of batteries, but yeah, I think maybe you said it's trying to give us some information there.
Yeah. So Kingsong, when they were releasing it, they mentioned something about the software where it was, what was it? It was a MOSFET software that MOSFET-less technology. You remember what I'm talking about?
Oh no, sensorless something.
I think, yeah, it's just like some type of sensor that
Hall sensor. Hall sensorless. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes. The S20 does have Hall sensor, but I think it can work without Hall sensor when it needs to. But it does come with a Hall sensor. So another piece of redundancy system built into an EUC. One thing that obviously I've been writing since 2018. Back in the days when Tucson first came out, I was watching him, and I can tell you that feature in itself is, if it was implemented properly the way we think it should be, it's revolutionary. back in the days, we used to just listen to beeps at high speed with the
Right.
wind to make sure we don't cut off. Now we have redundancy built in that will stop us from cutting off if done properly by Kingsong. So that in itself, by books.
UC Vibe says it's impossible to cut out an RS.
I think I know what he's talking about because of the monocell batteries and the
Right.
RS from Ginger
Right.
Wheel. He's like, give it to me, boy. I'll show you how to cut off.
I know. And then Yusuf Agan also says UC Vibe probably went hard leaning from the start. Interesting.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's I don't know. I think what I meant was probably the anti-cutoff, as in when you're going really fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay, so I'm going to ask you questions about the suspension comparison now.
Okay.
So the obvious difference between the KS20 and the Master is the progressive nature of the KS20 and the long travel. I think it's approximately 130 millimeters versus the 80 millimeters of the Master. So personally, I see the Master as an all-around wheel and not specifically geared towards like constant jumps on pump tracks and stuff like that, whereas the KS20 seems to be all about that. So also in a lot of the KS20 videos I've seen so far, they seem to focus mostly on downhill. I haven't seen major and jumps, but I haven't seen major hill climbing, climbs or anything like that. But the Master, it seems like that's all they focus on. So it seems like the Master's strength is the torque, which is important where acceleration, abrupt stopping power is concerned. But the KS20 seems to lack all of that and seems to focus more on the suspension aspect of the wheel. What's your take on that? And what has other people been saying to you in your demos, et cetera, et cetera? Because if you keep in mind, like EVX did do a video of him power braking, and the KS20 seems to lack a lot of stopping power.
Yeah. So in terms of why we're seeing a lot of videos of people going down hills and doing suspension, I think, listen, we all kind of smart now, and we know how it is. I think those are just basically marketing, right? Put a good looking girl.
But why didn't Kingsong market it like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the S20, for example, right? So yeah, talking about the S20. So the old going down is because it showcases the suspension, right? The marketing.
Right,
so you see, it shows you how the suspension takes the hit, because the unique selling point of the S20 is the suspension. All right, they're not going after top speed or whatever. Whereas with the Master, they want to show you that this thing has got power, and with power comes speed, especially at 134 volt, because the cheapest way to increase speed is just increase the voltage, right? So that's it. So the millimeter travel compared to the 80 or 88 millimeter. So when I I spoke with someone about this, and the 130 millimeter, you don't actually use all of that on a spring. It's that long, but you don't compress, you don't use it all the way. Whereas the 80 in the Master, because it's a different kind of suspension, you probably use more of that 80 than you use 130. So they're not that far away in terms of the suspension travel.
Really?
So the S20 will still travel a lot more, obviously, because it's got all that, but it's not, you don't use the entire 130 millimeter, at least I don't think. I'll put my camera there when I'm riding and jump and see. The Master it's a street wheel, plain and simple. All right, that's what it's for. It's for accelerating. It's for stopping hard, because the torque is there, right? Once you have torque, you can accelerate hard and you can
stop hard
and stop. And that is what that wheel is for. You put a monocell battery in that wheel, and you will fly. Like, you will just go. Especially with the suspension. Forget all of that Sherman, Max, any other wheel right now. It would you will get a Sherman Max if you want range, right?
Right.
You want range. Right. You want that robustness of the roll cage. It looks like a beast, right? But even if I get a Hero, if I was to jump on a Hero speed right now, and you tell me go from one part of London, or maybe I don't know, zone 1 to zone 2 or something, I will beat you on a hero speed because I can just bounce through that. I'll just
Right,
flow.
right. That's awesome.
Exactly. Even on your Sherman Max any day, I will. It's just the way it is. And then imagine then have a master that has more power, has got better braking. Even the speed is still pretty good. The hero speed is still pretty good with braking and accelerating. But yeah, so hopefully Begode don't mess up the master, but it has the potential. Yeah. But then again, I think the master and the S20 will still, in their own rights, be the leader in there.
Exactly. Yes, I was thinking that too. I was thinking it's possible that these wheels don't even cross paths, really, because
I think so.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think so as well. I think the S20, as I said, it's a lovely wheel for going off piste, for going off roading. I just feel like you can take the S20, put in your car, go to the countryside, and just have fun. Put it back in your car, and then come back home and feel distressed. You feel good. And then the master, you're like, you know what? I need to go from A to B as fast as I can, whatever, and just go for it.
Yeah.
So you're right, what you said as well. The market, you can have both.
You can have both. Yeah.
You can have both. You don't. There is no master versus S20.
Right.
You can have both.
That's what I'm realizing. The more I look at videos, the more I look at people's responses, the more I look at the specs on the wheels. They're two different wheels.
Yeah, absolutely. So just keep an open mind, and you don't. Yeah, I think that you can have both. I'm gonna have both.
Of course, you're gonna have all the wheels, man.
I mean, personally, not from E-Ride. Just me. I'll buy out of my own account.
Yeah. My little other one wanted to take him. Okay. So now something interesting about the pads. I honestly thought Kingsong would have developed a true adjustable pad system like the EX20S, which has a fully integrated adjustable system. Do you think that's something that was rushed on Kingsong's part? Because that's how it was. That's how it was advertised. Even if I go in Kingsong S20 now, I see that the pads go up and down, and even they didn't say this. We just assumed that it would kind of adjust itself up and down. But if you look at the X20S, it actually does that. It adjusts itself up and down. Do you think that's just like something they rushed, or?
No, I mean for the S20, no, I think it's always been designed that way.
Okay.
When you say pads, you're talking about the lean pads, right? The power pads.
Yeah, the power pads that comes with the wheel.
Yeah. I basically took off that boomerang thing. I was finding it hard to accelerate. I took off that boomerang thing immediately. Somebody gave me a suggestion on Facebook. Took it off, moved my pads a little bit forward to give me a bit of leverage so I can lean into it. The boomerang thing is great for just for the way it looks, but yeah, or just put some some other bespoke pads on there or something, and take that off if you really want real performance. But in terms of pads coming from a manufacturer, that's the best that I have tried personally from a manufacturer. So that's the caveat there. But yeah, I'll probably eventually take it off. But definitely take off that boomerang.
Definitely take off that boomerang. So let me see. I hope people know what you're talking about. Hold on for a second. Let me remove this and add this back. So with the boomerang, you're pretty much talking about
that. Yeah, that thing there.
Yeah,
take that off.
This right here.
Yeah, I took that off. It restricts me. I want my braking to come a lot. I prefer braking. I'm more braking biased, and with the brake, part right at the back, I have to lean a lot harder to be able to engage that. So I took off the boomerang, which then allowed me to push my lean pad a bit forward, so I can engage the brake a lot sooner. and also helped me with my acceleration. So I just took that off. Yeah.
Ron says the molten batteries have a higher C rating. I don't know what that means, which allows a higher current draw. Higher C rating requires a physically larger battery unless you lower the milliamp capacity. And this guy seems very knowledgeable in battery.
Yeah, it does. I think I've run into his comments before. It definitely does. I think just to summarize that from what I'm reading from that comments, thank you, Ron, is just that molten batteries have higher discharge and allows you to pull more amps out of it. Higher C rating requires a physically larger battery. Okay, and with the Master not having a physically larger battery, unless you lower the capacity endurance. Okay, well that's something I just learned today. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, based on that alone, it seems to me that the Master might have a little bit more performance and range together combined.
It could be. That's why I said earlier, right? That people look at 2,000 watt-hour millicell and they think, oh well, it's lower than 2,200 LG. That might not necessarily be the case.
I'm focusing more on the discharge rate. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean the rate in which it can drop out? Yeah. By all accounts, the molten batteries are one of the best, if not the best, in terms of in all in all capacity, in terms of discharge, everything, safety as well. Yeah, so that's why we pushed Begode to speak to Lightech and get this option on the table. Yeah.
It's interesting. He responded again by saying SAG is eliminated by choosing batteries with a higher C rating.
The firmware change will also be required to allow higher current flow. Yes. So just by having a battery that can give you higher discharge doesn't mean the wheel will be configured to make use of that. My conversation with Begode is that they've taken that into account, as in the firmware will be able to take this. It's been configured for that. But listen, there's theoretical and there's testing, and until we get the Master in-house, we will do our lean test. We will get some fast riders we have here in the UK to do their stuff, and yeah, they will tell you. Oh, he's just one of them. There's some crazy ones here doing 57.
Yeah,
the UK has some fast riders. Like we're not as good with the cameras as some of the other people around Abu Dhabi or New York or Philippines, but these guys are fast. They scare me sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, we will test it here in the UK.
Yeah, someone said to Adam, Yusuf Khan says, Adam, it won't be a pleasant experience to learn on the S20, 100%.
But then again, I think we have to be obviously clear here. I think with the S20, the S20 is designed for the majority of the riders, whereas me and you and some of the other people probably on this live stream, we're looking at the top, talking about proper high discharge rate. But saying that anyway, I think I would rather have a wheel that is over engineered in terms of performance, because power is safety, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I think there's two sides to the coin. Yes, yeah, I think the Master probably one.
Yusuf Khan responded by saying, imagine modding a Master just like, see, mods, I'm not into mods, but I'm not sure if it's going to be easy to mod the Master or the KS20. The package that holds their battery, that enclosure, seems to be very limited. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I thought first, and then our engineer modded his S18, so he's already been talking to me about modding his Abrams. He's talking to me about modding his S20 as well. So it's going to take some time for us to kind of get him the parts he needs and the batteries, but we will look into modding the S20 sometime if it can. We're already looking at modding the Abrams to have higher battery capacity, and he's already modded the capacitors on the Abrams to have more. So we'll try to do the same thing for the S20 as much as we can.
Well,
But
speaking of
yeah, what's it saying?
what was that? Go on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I read. Oh, so I read that. So there are new motor cell. Yes, they are better than Kingsong has to put better. Yes, I read that. I think it was someone from Begode that sent me that. I think it was I didn't even know. He said there's a P42. However, there's even the P45 as well. Afeez, and he sent that to me. So yeah, there's a P45 motor cell. That's crazy.
This person says, Yusuf Khan says, if that's the case, the price would go above $4,000.
Yeah, probably even more. Yeah, probably even more.
And Demos 15 says the Master has Molly and it is below 3K.
Yeah.
Well, the Master isn't really at 3K. It's actually about the same price as the KS20 with the higher performance cells. I was actually very disappointed. Not that it's not worth it. It's just, it was, a lot of people were saying, hey, it's only $2,600. That's like the lowest tier battery, right?
Yeah. So because so the price of that Master is probably the one with the Samsung 50E. With the motor cell, I think it's an additional 350 or close to 400 more on top of it. So if you put a motor cell there, probably be about 3K. But you can get a Master for 2,699 or 2,700 or something. Yeah. Oh, S20 is $330 pounds sterling over here. So for us, S20 is lower than that in pounds sterling. Yeah. The S20. Remember there was that email that was sent out to say that the battery, the materials have now gone up in price and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was probably it was probably 290 like months ago, and then everything happened, and then all the prices has gone up for acquisition.
That's a good comment right here.
Oh, is that for the S20 talking about? Is that sensorless?
Yeah, I think so.
Thing? Yeah, I think that's probably the anti-cutoff thing that I was reading somewhere that it's probably related to that. Yeah, the firmware is supposed to provide. Yeah, UStride. Please stop calling it the KS20. It's the Kingsong S20 or KS20. Please tell him, Trevor. Tell him. S20 Kingsong S20.
Oh man, Easy Vibe says he's with his baby too. I think he's referring to the Sherman. Is the Abrams ready for mass production?
Well, the Abrams is supposed to be mass produced already now. So yeah, I mean, we have Abrams. People are selling Abrams now. It's not been successful as the Sherman that came before it. They had some firmware issues with the initial ones, which I think is been upgraded. But I think that will, when it works. But nobody's So
Real Talk says there are so many positives with the Hero. Wow, I guess the price is killing it.
No, the price has gone down now. The price has gone down. It's gone down. It's now comparable to the S20 price. In some cases, you might even find it to be a bit lower. I think some other distributors in the US, I believe, I've been reading comments like Alien Rides and other people have the Hero now. So if you're in the US, check them out.
I think the fuss sums it up. He says, I love both wheels. I don't think one is better than the other. People just say one is better because of what they specifically love to do, and they go too far with it and to try and make a point or something. Well, he's right, because these are two different categories. I'm realizing that more and more.
Yeah. I think most people like one wheel and one particular wheel than the other, and then they try to justify that. And then they obviously, people have debates, and it obviously gets a bit heated sometimes. But I believe that there are two different markets. These two.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
Ron. Yep. You can read that.
That's true. Yeah, that is so true. So, it's unfortunate that Kevin is not on here right now. You and Kevin probably, get along like a house on fire, for sure. Like, yeah, he tells me exactly the same thing as well. So, yeah, but Afeez, if they increase the current, then all the other components needs to be like upgraded as well. And this is why I think the Master's got 24 MOSFETs, blah, 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 and he talks about
He's right. But he's right.
He's right, yeah.
Because a lot of people were like, why didn't you just increase the firmware? Well, you can, but then you have components in there that's probably at their limit already. So you can only draw back, not really push forward.
Yeah.
If you want more performance, by firmware update.
Yes. Nice one, Ron.
So that's a very good point. Kafaz says, when you say it needs more battery, it's not that it's easy to do if you are trying to create a performance, torque, agile wheel to race on a track or hit jumps. It's very true. I mean, look at the EX20S. That's a wheel that's in the same category in terms of performance, but look at its weight. It's 3,600 watt hours. Yeah. You're not going to call that a performance wheel. That's a range wheel with beautiful.
Yeah, that's a cruiser. It's nice to cruise, but yeah, I mean, so it's about getting the balance, and that's why I think it's harder nowadays to create a performance wheel, because when I say performance, I'm talking about torque, being able to stop, being able to be agile. Yes, you can put a more rounded tire to help you with maneuverability, but if it's too top heavy, then you still feel it. It will just drop on one side or drop on the other side. The battery positioning needs to be in a certain way as well. It can't be too wide apart, or else just going, it'll be like a boat. It needs to be centered. But if you want more range, you need to increase the battery. But then the best way to then increase more range, we don't have that yet. It has to come with solid state batteries, which they're still working on. So I think we're getting to the point where electric unicycles, in terms of performance wise, to get that balance, will probably plateaued a little bit. And the next thing now is to talk about the sensorless Hall sensor by Kingsong, safety feature, better build quality. That is now the next thing, I think, for AUC until we get better batteries and better tech development.
Someone said, Devo, I saw someone upgrade their Hero suspension to a coil suspension. You should be able to do it with the Master.
Yeah. You should be able to do it with the Master. If I know, again, going back to a video that I saw of Alien Rides, they upgraded their Hero to the coil suspension. You can do that if you know the size. You can buy it. DNM, all of that. So yeah, all of this is all.
What is that? I don't know anything about that. What is that?
What, you mean the coil suspension?
No, this one. This one says, do you have any info about the 32S 8P Gotway wheel? Is that a thing? I don't know. Have you heard about that? No. And this is just playing around. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do. I've been trying to get myself something special from Gotway, but it's going to be too heavy, and especially if it's 134 volt. I'm not sure how much I can talk about that. This is the moment when I can talk. I don't want to commit Begode to something that they can't really deliver, but yeah, there is rumors of those wheels that will come out soon.
Ronnie Wright says, I'm worried about quality. Adding suspension adds complexity. We already seen slider design on S. We just talked about that earlier. Not great. Wonder what we will find on the Master. I hope they are both durable and easy to maintain. You can probably guess already what the Master can expect because you have the Hero.
Oh, okay. So the Hero is better built in terms of structurally than I think the Master. They spent a lot of money on the Hero, and I think they've scaled back a little bit on some of the stuff on the Master so they can come to the market with a more affordable wheel that still does the job and gives the performance. I think the Hero in some way may have been over-engineered. So the frame of the Hero, I think, is just cast aluminum or something. Is properly built. The Hero is. I don't have it here. Maybe sometime. But yeah, the Hero. The reason why it cost a lot when it first came out was because they spent a lot of money trying to design this thing from scratch, and I think they did it a bit too much. Yeah.
So apparently, Devo says George go, George go, go
Got
George
it.
go.
Yeah.
That's the EX20, only one in the States, I believe. Have you ever tested that wheel? No, right?
No, I haven't. I was offered one, but I just thought it was too big for what I needed for.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I will only have one if it was 134-volt version, so at least I know I got the fastest wheel on earth at the time. That's the only reason why I wouldn't just go for it. It's got nothing special unless it's 134-volt. Then we'll talk. Then we can go really fast.
I have two last questions for you, and then you can add your own stuff from there. But these are the last two questions I have.
Okay.
Okay, who is this wheel for? With all of your experience, do you think who do you think should purchase this wheel? And what are some of the shortcomings you can think on the top of your head? Also, you can think of the the positives as well, but I just like to think of the negatives. Go ahead.
Of the S20, who is it for? For most medium to advanced-ish rider. But not worried about top speed. For someone that wants an electric unicycle as a recreational activity, so you can put in your car, go and do some jumps, go down the trails, explore the countryside, knowing that you got suspension to back you up. You don't want to do more than 30, 40 miles anyway on trails. You'll be tired and then come back home. It is not for city warriors. When I call about city, I'm talking about city riding people that that want to go in and out and break hard and go hard and bang, bang, bang. Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but you can do it better on other wheels. I think if you have space, like again, I'm just referring back to Sean's review when he's comparing the Sherman. If you have space to do what he did, that cutoff tunnel that they always go through, and you can, then and go through bumps, and it's a free flowing traffic, and you don't have to, you don't need an abrupt stop all the time and acceleration. Then S20 is awesome at going through bumps in New York.
Nice.
Oh my God. Yeah. So.
And my last question is, and I'll go to the chats, and please let me know. We're about to wrap it up. I don't want to hold you too long, but finally. Yeah, I don't want to hold you too long. Finally, is the price tag worth it? That's for the KS20 now. Is the price tag worth it, or should Kingsong drop the price?
I think the price tag is worth it based on today's situation, today's market. There's lack of materials. Right now, you don't know how much the price has increased in terms of materials for Kingsong to buy those materials to put the wheel together. So I think based on today's economics, it is worth it. Yeah. Makes
sense. Now let's see if we can get like three. How many more questions do you think you can do? Maybe 3 or 4?
I can do 3. I mean, come on, people spend the time coming here.
That's true. All right, let's see. EUC Vibe said, this is not a question. EUC Vibe says, the Master is going to make the S20 obsolete.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just people with different needs. They might cross path a little bit, but I think in most cases, it's like, imagine if you draw like a circle here, and this is a circle of people. They might kind of cross path a little bit like that, but they're still a bit different. It's not going to make it obsolete.
Demos 15 says, any news about the V13?
I had, but then it's no longer useful because we thought we're supposed to get a V13 sometime in April, but there have been a couple of delays. Some QC issues had to be fixed first before they start. 12 high torque, it's not coming out, so that has them push the V13 a little bit backwards. So no, they're just trying to prioritize the V12 high torque right now and improve the quality control issue with the MOSFETs, which they're going to send out all these free boards to us to replace all of our customers. So no news, it's been pushed back forward.
And will the this is Finn, he says, will the V13 come out in our lifetime, what's the big deal with that wheel?
Okay, by God's grace, I hope it does come out. I hope our lifetime lasts for many more years. Then yeah, it will come out. I believe I'm 80% sure, not 100%, 80% sure that it will come out this year. That I can confirm.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This year?
V13 should come out this year. I mean,
Interesting.
it should have come out.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the last question. Anything else you want to say to everyone?
I just want to say thank you for listening to me and UStride to, talk our stuff. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking some time off your time to listen to us talk. And let's be positive in the EUC community. And let's infighting, please. It's supposed to be fun. All right. Positivity.
Yeah, the wheels are different, but that doesn't mean you have to hate one to love the other. You know? So I really appreciate that, Afeez. Hopefully we can do more in the future.
Yes.
I felt this went great. It was just question and answer, nothing crazy. Guys, I hope we answered your questions, some of your questions for you. Check out eRides. You can shout out your channel and stuff as well.
eRides.com. And for the guys in Europe, I know that you guys have been having a lot of issues with customs. I didn't come out of the European economy, was Brexit and our prime minister, but we're looking to work on something to serve the European community very soon. I'm working hard behind the scenes. So just hang in there. Thank you for your support of eRides.
Awesome. All right, Mr. eRides, Mr. Afeez. Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
No worries. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Awesome, guys. This was great. Went better than I thought. And this was literally just a question and answer. I tried to come up with as many questions as I possibly could based on what I've seen, based on what I've heard in comments and stuff like that. So, and you guys asked some great questions too. So, and great feedback. So this was epic indeed because of you guys. I would love to set up another one, but I have to add another guy. Maybe EUC upgrades could join as well. But the closer and closer the master, gets to production, I think we'll have a lot more questions. Also, I think once the KS20 is delivered or is shipped to the first customer, man, wow. That I think is going to be very interesting because it's a production now. It's a production model, which means that they hopefully refined a lot of the issues that came out during testing. So that's going to be interesting to have the first customer receive the KS20. That is really going to say it all. That's going to say it all. So guys, thank you very much for joining. See you next time. I don't have an outro today, so sorry about that. I'll try to set something up. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have an awesome day, okay? Ride safe. Happy riding. Till next time.